Jesus. Alrighty then. I'm glad that's all taken care of. Got chat all set up. Turn this off here. Alright, guys, what is going on? It's nothing fancy, and today we're just talking about some Bleach and just chilling, just gaming out. I wanted to say the past couple days I've been having issues just trying to get my stream working correctly. I was running into an issue where at one point I was getting a message where function is unavailable, I couldn't stream, and then an error would occur, and just a bunch of different errors preventing me from going live. I ended up getting down to the bottom of it, so I'm officially back. I don't know what the issue was, but the issue's been resolved. Appreciate everybody coming and hanging out, whether you're tuning in now or you're tuning in later. Hope everybody's having a great day and or night, wherever you are in the world. So, last time I did a Bleach Brave Souls episode, I ended up trying to do a little bit of Bleach, and then I ended up trying to watch a couple episodes of the 1,000 Year Blood War arc. Just trying to get into that. I only ended up watching about 3 episodes on stream, and then I ended up just binging the 37 other episodes on my own time, and wow, I have mixed feelings. We'll probably get into the discussion of how I felt about the 1,000 Year Blood arc. I was only able to watch 40 episodes due to the website that I was using. I don't know if there's more out there or when more are coming, but I'm going to try and stay on top of it. But I'm all cut up as far as the 1,000 Year Blood arc goes. A lot of questions have been answered. A lot of my facts have kind of been corrected. A little bit more backstory on the arc and all that. And yeah, I'm just gonna get my coffee here. Hair, yum. Alright. So I already took care of a few things before I started the stream. I did all my daily quests, so we don't have to worry about that. That's all cut up. See if we got any new events here. Not really. We already got 2 million points. That's done. So I guess we could probably do some sub-stories while I talk about my feelings and how I felt about the new 1,000 Year Blood arc. Lots to talk about. Lots of feelings. I will say, full disclosure, before you guys continue to watch, before you guys continue to read or listen, full disclosure. So if you're not interested in hearing what I'm about to say, go find something else to watch. But there will be talk of certain, what's the word I could use here? Less than desirable, slightly unsavory talk about self-harm. Now, the reason I'm bringing up self-harm is because there was a lot of that in the 1,000 Year Blood arc. Quite a different viewpoints, quite a different topics of bringing it up. Just wanted to clarify and mention that if you are feeling depressed, if you are having issues, and you are feeling in that type of a position, there is help available, and it's always there for you. Just reach out through any kind of support, or maybe just take some time and remember that you're loved and appreciated. Um, I don't talk lightly about it. It's a very serious topic. So if it's a trigger or if it's something that's going to upset you, maybe you just not be here. But you have been warned. You have been notified. So, a couple episodes that I did watch on stream. Like I said, I watched 3 episodes. You guys got my reaction to that. And unfortunately, due to obviously copyright and things like that, I wasn't able to continue doing that. And obviously I was having technical issues, so I just ended up watching the rest on my own time. That zombie girl talked quite a bit about some less than inappropriate talks, making Soul Reapers self-harm themselves. We even had Squad 0 off themselves, and talk of strangulation and all types of disturbing content. That kind of content rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't care for it. I don't think it was necessary. They could have done a number of different, they could have went any way about it, but instead they decided to, no, I'm not sensitive, right? Like, I can handle that kind of stuff, but, it was definitely very disturbing. Some of the self-harm, it's not something to be joked about, and it's not something to be taken light of. But other than the fact of those, I guess you could call it cringy scenes or very matter-of-fact scenes, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the 40 episodes that are out currently. Again, I don't know if that's all of them, but for the 40 episodes that I ended up watching, it was good. The battles were interesting. It almost felt a little sped up. It almost felt like they didn't spend too much time dicking around. I am one of those people that's kind of like on the fence at some points, where it's like, is there too much talking, or are they just kind of sitting around just yipping and yapping rather than fighting? I think it was a good balance, but I also felt like they could have stalled, but I'm kind of glad that they didn't. They filled the void in where backstory was needed and where dialogue was needed. You know, right from the invasion of the Soul Society, right down to finding out why they wanted to, Quincy's wanted to destroy the Hollows. From getting a temporary hollified Bankai to getting their Bankai back. From Uwahabaha invading the Sacred Palace, the Royal Palace. From, yeah, I don't know what they did to Ichigo. I don't even know where to go with that conversation. I feel like he got weaker, or maybe he's just not that strong. But we haven't seen his Bankai. We've just seen his new Getsuga Tencho ability. Squad 0, not really much to talk about there. It was kind of like a one-hit wonder, very one-dimensional. Still good. It was still good. A lot of fun there. Even after their self-harm scene for the Weaver, the Great Weaver, to activate her Bankai, it seemed like that did nothing, and they ended up all just perishing anyways, except for Ichibe, who just needed Ichigo to call out his name. So he's still alive. Then to find out Ichigo Kurosaki is the one that ended up doing the killing blow to the Soul King from Jishiro what the hell? Ikitake. No, that's not right. Ikitake. Jishiro Ikitake. No, that's not it. Anywho, he ended up pledging. Well, he was like he had some kind of incurable lung disease when he was a child, and then he pledged himself to a deity or an entity that was the right hand of the Soul King, which was stillness. and he ended up trying to stabilize everything, but Captain Ukitake, there we go, I got it. Captain Ukitake sacrificed himself to stabilize everything. Yawahabaha absorbed the Soul King, and then he reshaped the palace to his liking, and pretty much everybody from the Soul Society went to the new royal palace. Yeah, there was just so much going on and just so much to keep track of. I'm probably gonna have to watch all 40 episodes all over again just so I can reabsorb some of the information. I kind of had a feeling Uryu was kind of playing the double-sided dice, you know, trying to get in close to Yawahabaha, but I'm not surprised that he had ulterior motives, trying to go undercover, I guess you could say. We learned about Masaki, which was Ichigo's mother. That scene was pretty cool. How she ended up coming to Ishin Kurosaki, and Ishin, you know, he was the Ishin clan. Mazaki was Kurosaki, but she ended up saving Ishin from White, which was the crazy hollow there that Aizen and Kaname and Gin were experimenting with. I would assume it makes sense why Ichigo has so many different powers, like Fullbring, Hollow, Quincy, and all four of them. I think there's 5 of them actually. There's Soul Reaper, Quincy, Hollow, Stern Ritter, my apologies. There's Soul Reaper, Hollow, Quincy, Human, and Fullbring. I'm pretty sure those are his 5 abilities. Ishin sacrificing his powers to kind of keep her alive from holification was kind of cool to see all that play out, and to find out that Grand Fisher wasn't even responsible for, because that's something that's always bothered me. I was like, well, you know, if Ichigo's mom was a Quincy, how did a lowly little Grand Fisher Hollow kill her? And come to find out, Yawahabaha ended up absorbing a lot of the Quincy's, which took away her powers, which meant that she couldn't defend herself against the Grand Fisher. Very sad. Very sad. I don't know what else to talk about right now while I'm thinking. So while I'm thinking about that, why don't we do some sub-stories? Why not? Even though I literally just finished watching the 40th episode, I don't remember hardly anything other than the big moments. I mean, I guess we could talk about Genryusai Yamamoto's Bankai. It's basically exactly how it is portrayed in Bleach Brave Souls. The northeast, south, and west, all the different moves. Really crazy Bankai. His Bankai was literally out of control. 50 million degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy. And even after being sliced in half, he was still clinging on, trying to fight him. Unfortunately, he was literally blown to smithereens and nothing remained. And indeed, Shinsui Kyaraku did indeed, oh yeah, we got him right there, ended up becoming the new head captain. His Bankai was pretty cool, Shunsui Karaku, even though he was at a complete disadvantage and he didn't end up defeating his opponent. Nanao was the one who ended up defeating him by reflecting his godlike powers through a sacred sacrificial sword. We kind of talk about that a little bit later. See, what else could I talk about? Maybe talk about things that I didn't understand or things I felt like were pointless. Rukia's Bankai was absolutely beautiful. It was so great. It was so beautiful. So destructive too. Where she makes even one move the wrong way and it's game over. If I'm not mistaken, she ends up becoming a captain. Renji's Bankai was pretty cool. His full Bankai anyways. He only knew half the name of his sword, which means he was only getting half the power the whole time. He didn't even know his old Bankai's name. Which is crazy. I forget what the exact word is for a sword that doesn't have a name or an owner. But anybody who doesn't make the court guards, they get a sword, and then with training they develop personality. Their soul is engraved into the sword. And the fact that Ichigo couldn't convince or have a sword come to him, and he ended up, after having a revelation and then finding out his background through his father, he ended up getting a second chance to choose again, and he ended up choosing a sword that kind of resembled his inner hollow. I don't know if we're going to be seeing hollification. I really doubt it. His shahacho is covered in white in some areas, which makes me believe that he's in hollow mode, or he has access to hollification abilities without putting on a mask. We have yet to see, we've got a little glimpse of a little bit of his Quincy powers when he was breaking through the barrier. Some of the particles are reabsorbed into him and awakened his dormant Quincy powers, so we get to see the blute. I think it's called blute. It's kind of like a protective blue crystal sheen in the skin that prevents lethal blows. So we definitely got to see a little bit of Ichigo's Quincy powers. But as far as like discharging a bow, nothing like that. Not yet anyways. Mayuri Kudosuchi's scenes were pretty cool, showing his softer side to Nemu number 7, I think. And to see her kind of step out of line and develop a conscience and personality without his acknowledgement is pretty astonishing to his character as a person of science. Didn't get to see a whole lot of Aizen. We'll probably see a little bit more of Aizen, but the little bit of Aizen we got to see, that's actually a good segue into another conversation, but I also noticed that some of the voice actors are different. I don't know if maybe they've grown up a little or they got some kind of different voice actors, but I noticed, excuse me, some of the voices for some of the characters were different. It's nice to see Kon still had his voice and all that. Same voice actor, I'm assuming. Um, so aside from voice acting aside, let's talk about some of the German sounding names, or some of the tongue in which the Wanderreich and the Volstein Heisenwagenstrachen. There's a lot of German talk. I'm not too sure what the angle is for there. For someone who barely even remotely understands German or understands German, there's a lot of German sounding vocabulary and or names. I don't know if that was intentional or just trying to be different, but I didn't know if it made sense or. Again, I'm not a developer. I'm not sitting around the board table with Tybw coming up with these concepts or ideas. So if it's new and different, I'm with it. Do I have to accept it? No, I don't. Does it have to make sense? No, it doesn't. Maybe it'll make sense as we progress through the story and we learn a little bit more on why it sounds so German. It's beyond my understanding as of right now, but I definitely picked up on that quite a bit. The Wanderreich, the Sternritters, definitely got a little bit more background information for them. It almost seems to be like this, like heads and tails scenario of, oh, the Soul Reapers are losing. Oh, now it's the Quincy's that are losing, and then it's the Soul Reapers, and then it's just this back and forth. You never know who's gonna die. You never know who's gonna win. Or, if you want to get technical, I guess you could say, unalived. Even though I don't talk like that, but you never know who's gonna be quote unquote unalived. It was nice to see. I didn't know how to feel about it at first, but they ended up bringing like Grimmjow back, some of Xylabro Grantz and his Frazione back. Obviously, Mayuri Kurosuchi had modified them to be subordinates. The visors ended up showing up, which is nice to see. Seems like towards the end of the. Well, I wouldn't say towards the end because I don't know how close it is to the ending. But we ended up seeing what few Sternritters like Bazby and the two other. I don't even know if she's a woman, because Yumi Chika said that the zombie girl is actually a guy in disguise. So I don't know how to feel about that. So we'll just she looks like a girl, so we'll call her a girl, but she's probably most likely a dude in disguise, which is fine. I don't care. I really don't care. But anywho, and then the one with the big jaw, the one that kind of goes around eating people with her mouth. Again, I don't know her name. It's, you get introduced to these so many characters, it's impossible to remember their names off by heart unless you kind of memorize it to heart. But Bazby and those two women showed up looking for revenge on Yahawahabaha, and they ended up being slaughtered. Even with Candace and zombie version Bambayeta, even though Yahawahabaha was supposed to be sleeping, he ended up killing them all. And I think his name is Jugrim, or no, it's not it. Mr. Judgment with the shield and sword. He was selected by Yahawahabaha to be his successor. He ended up having the sight and the powers of the Almighty, and the roles were then switched around, but it didn't seem like that. We also see Ichigo teaming up with Uryu again, confronting Mr. Judgment there. His name eludes me, so I do apologize. Finding out that the Soul King was, from what I gathered, Yohabaha's father. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then there was another Sternritter who kind of resembled the left arm, which is movement and progress, if I'm not mistaken. And the right arm is stillness. And there's also been talk of the guy who looks like Thor. Again, his name eludes me for the moment. Not to mention extremely unpronounceable by my standards. He might be the heart, or it was referred to as the heart of the Soul King. Definitely a lot of information to absorb. But as far as, I actually had one loyal viewer tell me that they were a little disappointed in the... I don't know what their reasons were. I don't think they explained it. I think they just ended up just saying they were disappointed. I guess it goes in one ear out the other, so again, I'm probably going to have to watch all 40 episodes multiple times over and over just so I can lock in the information that was given to me. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I really did. Again, like some confusing aspects and some concepts that didn't make sense or kind of felt one-dimensional, but the fact that we have any kind of Bleach content, I'm all for it. I even said this, I actually had one viewer ask me what was my least favorite arc, and that was the bounce. So even though the bounce didn't make sense to me and it felt very one-dimensional, it was still Bleach content, and I still enjoyed it, even though it wasn't something I was particularly fond of or felt like was really necessary to have, especially when those, side stories or those movies were just breaks. So Tybw and the development team could come up with more episodes, kind of like buying time. What else could we talk about here? Zaraki and Captain Unohana. That was an interesting fight. I definitely felt that one hit a little bit close to home, mainly because we're so used to seeing Yachiru Unohana being this really passionate, caring, loving captain who's known for her healing techniques, and we never really see her do any kind of confrontation, but to find out that she was the first Kenpachi and one of the original Squad 13 members was quite interesting for sure. We got to see kind of this savage, the thrill of the fight kind of type deal between both Captain Unohana and Zaraki, which was almost like a very clever and very beautifully illustrated dance between the two, as you can see here. This isn't the scene, I don't think, but it was very sad. Even after he had won the battle, it was sad because he didn't, after so long of finding an equal and having a good time in a fight, she was no longer alive. We still haven't seen any kind of form from Kenpachi other than his overgrown Zanpakuto that we see briefly. I was actually surprised to the amount of backstory that we were receiving in between episodes, kind of like glimpses into the past that correctly and correspondingly translate into accurate representations of the future and how it all ties together. I thought it was very methodical and very well done. if you go back and kind of watch some of the older Bleach episodes, you can kind of see that it almost felt like, okay, we got to come up with some kind of backstory. This time it kind of felt like more like, no, this is the backstory. Here you go. Like it was thought out, which is very nice to see. Um, I don't know if we're gonna see Kisuke's Bankai. I imagine at some point we'll probably see it, but I'm really looking forward to seeing his Bankai. Was quite a few Bankais that were pretty cool that we got to see. What doesn't make sense to me, I guess, for right now, is if the almighty Yohabaha has the vision of, what's that word? There's a word for it. Clairvoyance, or something along the lines of that. It's basically you can foresee or foretell the future, or you can kind of have glimpses into the future. What I don't understand is why Yohabaha would invite Uryu into the fold just to know that he's gonna end up betraying Yohabaha, unless that wasn't foretold or foreseen, like the Almighty claims that he can see, because he constantly says, "Oh, I've seen this all. I've seen what you would say, yada 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 yada." But there was one point in particular, when Captain Ukitake began sacrificing himself to manifest the right hand of stillness to stabilize the Soul King. We see that Yahabaha didn't foresee that coming, and Lady Yoruichi Shihohin picked up on that for sure. So maybe there's like some aspects where Yahabaha can't foretell or foresee everything, which is maybe why he assumed that by bringing in Uryu Ishida that he wouldn't end up stabbing anybody in the back or betraying the Wander Reich. So, but I don't know. For me personally, it's like if you have the vision to see the future, then two or three things happen. One, you knew he was going to betray you and try to get close to you to stop you. Or two, it was necessary for whatever reason. I'm sure we'll find out later on that it'll make sense why Yohabaha knew that Uryu was going to backstab or betray the Wander Reich that welcomed him in with open arms. There might be like a reason for that, or it could just be due to the lack of information or unseen perception of the future. You know what? It's really bothering me right now. Hold on. Okay, so his name is Jugrim. Hashwolf. 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 The Balancer, I guess you could call him. Yeah, the Balance. Seeing him and Baz B's backstory was also quite interesting. As a young boy, he was unable to manifest Reishi, and like Yahabaha, he was able to give power rather than obtain power. I was quite surprised to see Askin Noka Naklivier, I think is his name, the Death Dealer. I was surprised to see him be selected, along with Lily, and a few other Stern Ritters. He kind of struck me as kind of a weak character, but he's actually quite powerful if you think about it. Yeah. Eskinnek Livier, the death dealing. I mean, calculating the lethal dose is kind of crazy. It's a very methodical, very well thought out concept for sure, rather than just crushing somebody with full power. It's his powers are kind of methodically and well thought out. You know, adjusting certain thresholds to allow poisoning, or increasing the dose value of any kind of substance. You know, raising and lowering it to his will. That's pretty crazy for sure. We even seen that when Yoruichi Shihohin and her younger brother were fighting him. He ended up just raising the threshold of spiritual pressure. So if you didn't go beyond that threshold, you were never going to hurt him with a lower based attack, which basically makes him invincible. Much like Access or Lily Barlow. The X-Axis, yeah. That was crazy. He ended up turning into like a god. And then after his death, we see like this yellow rain kind of fall after his defeat, but it ended up falling down into the Soul Society. So maybe we'll see a little bit more of Aizen. We've seen a little bit of him crushing some of those offspring, I guess, of that god that once was. I don't know if he's still alive. Obviously, he probably still is because he's down in the Serete causing mayhem. But my question is what's gonna happen to everybody in the Serete now that everybody's up in the new royal palace? Obviously, we know Kisuke is still left behind. Actually, no, Kisuke is up in the new royal palace. Never mind. The only person down in the Soul Society right now, I think, is Lord Aizen, strapped to his wonderful reclining chair. I don't even think it's a recliner. I'm not too sure what Shinsui was aiming for by asking for his help, especially when he didn't seem too interested in joining Yahabaha. Because he said he only served himself, so why he would serve the Soul Reapers, I don't understand. Maybe it's ulterior motives. Even Yahabaha stated that it would take far too long and too much energy for him to try to neutralize Aizen himself. And to everybody's surprise, Aizen ended up getting a lot stronger while in the Mokin prison, which I didn't even know was a thing. And I also didn't know that the bindings and the straps weren't actually sealing away his power, but confining it to around his body. That Mayuri Kurosuchi ended up developing, which I did not know. I had no idea that Mayuri was the mastermind behind the seals that seal away Sosuke Aizen in his chair. The fact that he's even more powerful than when he fought Ichigo, said by Kisuke, is also a terrifying thought. I don't know if Aizen's gonna have kind of like this redemption arc to him where he'll kind of like turn over a new leaf. That's just something we'll just have to wait and see. Would it surprise me? Yeah. Mainly just because Sosuke Aizen only cares about himself. I definitely like the concept of the Wonder Reich and the Sternritters having different letters in the alphabet. I noticed that there was quite a few that we didn't end up seeing, maybe for reasons unknown or yet to be introduced. But there definitely wasn't, what is it, 26 letters, 27 letters in the alphabet? Fuck, I don't even know. That's embarrassing. I don't even think every single one had a letter. We learned this later on too, where the Thor-looking Sternritter and the ghost-looking Sternritter with just the eyes that Mayuri was fighting, they didn't seem to have a shrift or a letter associated with them. We learned that they weren't chosen or given a letter. I don't know if that's due to the fact that the letter had no value at the time, or they were undeserving of a letter. And to find out that the Almighty isn't even almighty, that he's like a false god. Lots of information to take in, for sure. I'm definitely going to have to do more reading and more research and watch more episodes, but if you could take anything away from this conversation that I'm having, it's I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed what little 1,000-year blood arc is out right now. Definitely looking forward to more. Were there some things that I was disturbed by? Sure. Are there some concepts that I don't think make sense? Yeah. But maybe in due time, I guess, we'll kind of learn more. And the cool thing is now I can do the story mode without having spoilers in Bleach Brave Souls, which is kind of nice. I think there's more episodes on Bleach Brave Souls in the game than there is available to watch as a show. I could be wrong. There could be the exact same amount. But it seems like they come to the game first and then they air on TV. I could be just talking on my ass and have no idea what I'm talking about. At first I did have my doubts about Uryu. I thought for sure he kind of like accepted the fact that he was a Quincy and humans were the enemy, but again, I'm not surprised that Uryu was playing the double-sided dice. I also had this conversation with the same person that earlier in the chat. That it was nice to see more of Uryu Ashita, especially given the fact that he wasn't a main character or he wasn't like the lead role. We're always hinted at the beginning, like I think it was even the first season, that we kind of always knew that Quincy's would play a bigger role later on. So I wasn't too worried about Uryu not having a lot of spotlight, as I kind of, even like in the very, like if you go back and watch season 1, it's very apparent that Quincy's will have a bigger story to play. I hope they continue to play with that theme and they kind of continue to give Uryu Ashita more spotlight as far as character development and how he's all tied into everything. You know, 40 episodes, there's a lot of information, but there's not really much to talk about. Not that I've already talked about. We still don't know if Shinsui Kiraku is gonna end up making a full recovery. He had a bunch of holes blasted through his shoulder, his stomach, his abdomen. He got messed up. He got messed up big time. And to see my Yurikudo Tsuchi too being close to defeat was also very interesting, because we've never seen that before. He's usually been the smartest in the group. He's kind of like proved his intellectual as a major part of his personality and his character, where his smarts allow him to have the upper hand, but he ended up getting thrown into a preservation tube with Kenpachi, and to see Kenpachi twisted up like a noodle was kind of crazy. Him slicing his own arm off. And having both of his legs twisted like a pretzel. It's kind of funny, but not really funny at all. We still don't know if he's learned Bankai either. They just know that they wanted to continue to train him, but Central 46 didn't want to due to the fact that he could become very dangerous later on. Which makes sense. I think it was Kendo, an actual technique where it focuses on two-hand sword combat, why he only fights with one hand on his sword rather than two hands. And to find that Kenpachi was unconsciously suppressing his powers so he could savor the fights. That was a revelation for sure. I figured the meaning was a little bit more symbolic and a little bit more dark, but it makes sense. If he didn't suppress his powers and if he didn't unconsciously lower his abilities, he would basically just insta-kill every single enemy, and he would have no chance to savor the fight. So by him subconsciously or unsubconsciously lowering his abilities and techniques, he was able to savor the battles and have more fun, I guess you could say, because it's all about the fight. It's all about the thrill of the combat for him. It's all he cares about. And to find out that he's the one that gave Unohana that scar on her chest, that's crazy, even as a young kid. And that it was Unohana is the one that ended up putting that burden on Kenpachi Zararaki. Especially that scene where, Lady Unohana is over there, trying to find somebody worthy of her time, and Buddy comes along and says, yeah, well, a nice pile of mountain. You got a pile of mountain of bodies here. And then she's like, where the fuck did that come from? And she had no idea that there was a pile of bodies there. And it was the first time that Unohana had found an equal. Yeah, that was so good. It really was. Sad that she ended up having to give her life. And to find out that she was one of the original, that the original 13 Court Guard squads were a lot different than how they were today. They were filled with killers, savages, thieves, maniacs, just straight monsters. And then obviously when things settled down after the war, he wanted to build, have children in classes and provide food and be a teacher, and kind of definitely grew soft for sure, which I definitely think contributed to his defeat in the end. He kind of grew a conscience, or well, not say a conscience, but kind of grew a heart, grew compassion. Being a savage killer was no longer one of his top priorities. It was more like inspiring the young, and being more like a father figure to the next generation. It would have been nice to see a little bit more of Yahabaha and Yamamoto, Genryusai Yamamoto, from the past, from like way back when, and why he couldn't defeat him, or why he was unable to defeat Yahabaha. Maybe we could potentially see that later down the road, but we didn't get to really see why he couldn't defeat him back then. 1,000 years ago, basically, is how it was described. And that he takes 900 years for him to regain his body, another 90 years to regain his conscience or whatever, and then 9 days for his power to return. Or I think it was 90 days for his power to return, and then 9 days for... Man, we already learned all this. But it's not like he could have showed himself. Obviously, he needed to wait 999 years in order to come back to its full strength. But then it also kind of plays into the Soul King, where everything kind of happens for a reason, and it was all part of a greater plan where maybe it was necessary to happen, or... So yeah, there's some things that don't make sense to me right now. I'm sure will make sense in due time. even when Ichigo was doing his training, he was getting revelations, I guess you could call them, visions, through the Soul King's power, which kind of aided him with, I guess you could say, forbidden or ancient knowledge. I don't really have much to talk about as far as my interpretation of the 1,000-Year Blood arc. Not that I've already discussed, obviously, but I'm definitely very excited to see more for sure. Yeah, it was definitely a good time. Definitely a good time. I think it was episode 29 or episode 40 where we seen Ashin and Ichigo's father and Uryu's father up in the Soul Palace as well. But I don't know if we're gonna see more of them. It's very likely, obviously, if they're up there with everybody else. I'm also pretty close to getting 500 6-star characters in Bleach Brave Souls on my phone. For those who don't know, I've pretty much been playing on my phone since the beginning, from when the game first launched. When I do hit that milestone of 500 6-star characters, I will be probably stream on my phone for the remainder bit of Bleach Brave Souls content. We might throw in some console edition Bleach Brave Souls, but and I can kind of work on the console version on my own time, but on my phone I'm pretty much at the point where I could rewatch not rewatch, well yeah, I guess rewatch, because I've already watched the Blood Arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War. But now I can watch it on the game or on the console without worrying about spoilers. I wanted to watch the show before I did the story. The art style and or animation a lot different too, even from like some of the earlier episodes where it was a little less graphic, and it kind of gets a little bit more graphic as the series goes on. I'm not one of those people that's kind of grossed out by how graphic it is. The graphic content definitely caught me off guard from what they were able to show, from decapitation to very morbid and disturbing scenes. Alright. So what we'll do here is we'll spend 10. Yep. And we'll do 2 more of these. I think what we're going to do is kind of focus a little bit on the story, just so I can get to the part where we could kind of rewatch and kind of break down the episodes as we play them. Going off the top of my head is pretty hard. Unfortunately, you can't just go and watch the latest episodes. You kind of have to play the story to unlock future episodes, which I don't mind doing, but that's going to be very time consuming. Even that one Sternritter and or Quincy that was killed by his imagination, this guy, that was very comical. His imagination ended up killing him. Or unaliving him, I guess. Still got a lot of sub-stories to do. So what are we on here? Part 2. Whoops. Okay, here we go. That's a lot of episodes here. Okay, so how many are out? Part 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So it seems like the equivalent of 40 episodes. Nice. So maybe we'll start working on some of the story. Wonder how fast I could get all this done. I'm not going to worry about 100%ing it. That's obviously something I could do on my own time. You just need certain characters for certain missions to get 100% 3-star. But hopefully we could burn through this pretty fast and kind of get up to the point where we could kind of break down every episode and kind of discuss more about it rather than just going off the top of my head. Because again, like I said, most of that information kind of went in one ear and out the other. I was surprised that, what is his name? Oh my god. Ganju of the Shiba clan. I'm surprised that he went up to the new the new Royal Palace. He didn't strike me as a character with very strong abilities, other than throwing firecrackers and doing sampan, which turns the ground into sand. So I'm not too sure why a character like him went up to the royal palace. And when they did go up to the Soul Palace, they ended up getting slaughtered pretty quick. Got him right here. Lily ended up sniping like at least 10 different Soul Reapers. Yeah, it was the first Quincy that granted the power to as a result. Supreme confidence as, yeah. So yeah, he ended up sniping quite a few Soul Reapers as they made their way up to the palace, or the new royal palace that Yawahabaha controls. So there's definitely room for some more character development and some more. They seemed like non-essential characters too, which I felt was kind of weird, when they could have definitely played a little bit more into. And the fact that they kind of left them behind to die from their wounds was also very surprising. And when I say quite a few, there had to have been at least 5 to 10 different Soul Reapers that were literally one shot from Lily, or Mr. X-Axis, whatever you want to call him. On a less serious note, it's nice to see the kind of the comedy. I was expecting the tone to be 100% serious and less jokes and less funny scenes, but it was nice to see that the theme and style of from serious scenes to comical scenes were integrated appropriately and authentically. As far as, like, if anybody knows Bleach, huge voice crack. If anybody knows Bleach, we know that Bleach goes from serious tones to comedy routines pretty nicely. So it was nice to see that hadn't changed too much. I'm all for a little bit of comedy relief here and there during the serious moments. I don't think it always has to be serious. Them lighthearted moments, I guess you could call them. And to find out that the Quincy's were living in the Seirete the whole time was kind of a mind whack. It was definitely a mind whack, for sure. that they were just living in the shadow the whole time. The whole time they were in the Seriate. They weren't even invading. They've always been there. That caught me off guard for sure. Oh, one thing that didn't make sense to me too is during the invasion of the Soul Society, when Yahuabaha was down talking with Sosuke Aizen, something ended up happening where they had to end up retreating because they spent too long, and they had to retreat back into the shadows. I don't know if there's like something more to that where they can only stay out for so long. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Maybe there's a reason for it, maybe there isn't. But it definitely seemed like they were on a time crunch, even when they returned the second time, unannounced. His Majesty's orders were to quickly eliminate the Soul Reapers, meaning that there is still some sort of a time crunch or some kind of timeline that they have to stick to for reasons unknown still. Again, it doesn't feel like it's wrapping up anytime soon. They could definitely milk it a little bit more. I don't know how, because like I said earlier, it kind of felt like it was being rushed. Bleach is also known for their battles and them kind of sitting talking and then battling and then kind of sitting and explaining the battle and then kind of just sitting yapping around, just sitting talking, yapping around, talking, yapping around, fighting, talking, yapping, fighting. Just kind of this back and forth between standing around, talking while they're fighting. But it definitely seemed like in this arc so far, it kind of feels like it's... I almost felt like they were trying to move really fast with it, like kind of speed it up. I don't know if they're just trying to like do a half-assed job of the arc and kind of just get it out as quickly as possible. I hope that's not the case. I hope they continue the character development. I hope they continue with the backstory. I hope they really take their time. The last thing I would want is for them to rush the 1,000-Year Blood arc, which it almost feels like they are at some point. Now, obviously, when I say they, I'm talking about Tybw and his illustration team and the board of directors and the suits and all that economic crap. As you guys know, we don't do politics here on this channel, so I won't go down that whole path of, you know, what the studio wants and all that crazy stuff. The suits, I guess, in the boardroom. Now, obviously, I understand that there's a crunch time and they got to meet deadlines, and I get all that, but the last thing I'd want to see is it feel like it's half-assed, haphazardly done, just fast forward, or kind of like everything is being rushed. But at some points it felt like it did, but it was nice to see the breaks being pumped here and there for the, like I said, the character development and the story building, which is always nice to see. It doesn't always have to be just combat. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier before I branched off, if I had to guess, I'd say we're in for at least quite a few more episodes. At least I'd say at least another 50 to 60, 100 in total would make more than enough sense to do character development, building backstory, and kind of tying everything together, especially if this is supposed to be the conclusion of Bleach. and there'll be no more Bleach after the fact. It would make sense that they would kind of pump the brakes, but also kind of wrap everything up. And it's also nice to note too that some of the characters seem to have aged quite well, aside from the voice actors changing for certain characters, indicating that indeed some time has passed. Especially if you kind of look at the characters from the Fullbring arc up into the Thousand Year Blood War arc. It's very evident and very clear that a significant amount of time had passed. I don't think it was ever disclosed how much time had passed since the Fullbring arc and the Thousand Year Blood arc. Both characters' maturity and character development was very clear and obvious, which again is nice to see. It might have just slipped by me when I was watching, but I don't think it was ever disclosed how much time had actually passed. If I had to guess, I'd say at least a couple of years for sure. I don't think it went from Fullbring arc straight into Thousand Year the next day kind of type deal. And I had no idea that Yoruichi Shihohin had a younger brother, and that he was now the head of the Shoheian clan, the stealth force, the new stealth force commander. I don't know if I think it talked a little bit about it when Lady Yoruichi was fighting the Deathbringer or the Death Dealer, that her younger brother, was now the head. I don't know if she was exiled or banished or she stepped down, but for whatever reason she was no longer the head. And Kisuke was allowed to come and go to the Soul Society after being banished. But again, we also see her in the Seirete, the Soul Society. So I'm not too sure how that banishment kind of exile, step down kind of works, especially if they're in the Soul Society, which I thought the whole point of being banished and unable to return to the Soul Society meant that you were outright banned, like you couldn't return. But so she's not the leader of the Shihoin clan anymore. Her younger brother is, who seems to be quite powerful and has already mastered Shunko in such a short time after learning it from Lady Yoruichi Shihohin. and to find out the whole time that uh, Zangetsu was nothing more than a version of Yahawaha, and that white was his actual powers. Any time that he was near death, or any time that he was about to die, it was his hollow, his powers that were, his real powers that were keeping him alive. And there was one correction that was made to my attention too after watching the Thousand Year Blood arc. I assumed that Yohabaha was Ichigo's father. Because Yohabaha says, "My son born in darkness." I assumed that when he said my son born in darkness, I was like, oh shit, Yohabaha is Ichigo's father, but I think Ashin is biologically Ichigo's father. But I think when he said his son born in darkness, I think he was referring to his Quincy heritage that was passed down to him. Even though episode 40 or episode 39, maybe it was 38, we learned that Yahabaha is actually a false prophet or a false almighty. He's not actually the leader that he claims to be. Just obsessed with power, power-hungry Quincy with a grudge. I was surprised the way that they ended the Squad Zero. I was definitely expecting a little bit more from Squad Zero. Like, yeah, they were strong, yeah, they were powerful, but they almost felt like, yeah, let's introduce Squad Zero and then let's just end their characters right there and then. They portrayed them as like super strong, you know, stronger than all the court guards put together, but for them to be wiped out so easily, and for their arc, other than Ichibe, because Ichibe ended up surviving only due to Ichigo calling out his name. So I guess there's only one Squad Zero member left. But I definitely felt like the conclusion to them was kind of cut short. I mean, Ichibe could obviously, probably, after they self-harmed and unalived themselves, Ichibe could have obviously thrown them in the water to help bring them back. The spring water or whatever. So maybe their arc isn't done, but it definitely felt like they could have gone a little bit more with it for sure. Now I'm probably the only person on this planet that's watched the Thousand Year Blood Arc War. Everybody's probably already watched it. Everybody probably already knows everything about it. They got all their facts down, all that fun stuff. So I'm definitely late to the scene for sure. I've also never read any of the books either. I know the books are supposed to be pretty good compared to the manga TV show. I wonder if they'd squeeze in another movie. And I don't even know what that movie would even be about. We still haven't figured out what they were doing with Lady Hallabell, because we know that they were kidnapping Espadas and Arrancars. A lot of characters that you thought were kind of killed off or done with, they kind of ended up making another appearance. So maybe we'll see more of Lady Hallabell later on. I think she's a Spada number 3. And the current ruler of Hueco Mundo. She kind of like restored order after Lord Aizen's regime. You know what? I'm actually gonna look it up right now. When can we expect more Bleach? Season 4 release date. The release date for Bleach 1000 Year Blood War Part 4, titled The Calamity, has not been officially announced. However, a special broadcast on TV Tokyo on March 31st will reveal new information about it. While some speculate it could be released in late 2025 or early 2026, fans will have to wait for the initial official announcement. So there's no official release date for Part 4. So it seems like late 2025 of this year or early 2026 next year we'll have more. So according to this, how many seasons in Bleach 1000 Year Blood War are going to be? The series will run for 4 cours with off-season breaks. So maybe we are pretty close to the conclusion, which is kind of sad. I would expect there to be a little bit more. So 4 seasons really isn't all that. 3 seasons have already come out, or cores. So maybe not. Maybe this will be the last. I mean, it did felt pretty close to the end. I figured they'd do at least maybe 4 or 5 seasons or cores. The calamity. The blood warfare, the separation, the conflict, and the calamity. The first 3 have already aired. So I guess it is pretty close to being done. That's sad. What's another Bankai I wish we could have seen? As far as Sosuke Aizen's Bankai. I've always speculated that his Bankai would have been no different than his Shikai. And that it was probably just easier for him just to use Shikai. Complete hypnosis. But I'll be right back. Alright. So I pretty much talked about everything I wanted to talk about. As far as this 1,000-Year Blood War arc so far has gone, and how I feel about it. I was today years old when I realized that there's only going to be 4 cores, or 4 seasons. So, I guess next time we watch Bleach, it's going to be the conclusion, I guess. It's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. I am curious to what everybody else thinks. So, if you guys want, drop a comment down below. Obviously, you'll find it on YouTube. A sub, a like, follow, all that fun stuff. You know, if you want to support the channel, it means a lot. But, you know, definitely drop a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. And I'm always reading chat, I'm always reading the comments, always paying attention to things like that. So I'm interested to see what everybody else thinks as far as their interpretation or their thoughts on the series. What are you looking forward to the most? You know, what's something you didn't enjoy about Bleach? Maybe your favorite character, your least favorite character, you know, anything you want, really. But like I said, going forward, because I'm pretty close to hitting 500 6-star characters, we will be definitely streaming off my phone going forward. And I'll probably just play the console edition on my own time. It's so much grinding. It's so much grinding. Maybe after I finish this part, we'll just do some character building, leveling up some characters, get some spirit orbs. Maybe wrap up the episode just by doing a little bit of summons. We're getting quite a few characters we could work and level up on. Kind of wanted just to sit here and Okay, we're already maxed out on characters. Speak of the devil. Okay. So we can do Ganjo. He's done. Kind of clean up my inventory a little bit here. Decent. Very good, very nice. Finding out the backstory behind Shinsui's kimono is actually pretty interesting too. I always wondered why he had a pink kimono. And seeing Sajin turned into a dog, an actual dog, after giving a heart sacrifice, that was a hard pill to swallow. Okay, I'm just gonna farm a bunch of cones. Yeah, we'll just do that. Why not? Cool. Done. Thank you. See you later. Let's get these characters leveled up. Probably shouldn't have done that. Characters are gonna be weak. Yep, of course. I have to sit here and do this the hard way. I always forget to put a little bit of XP into them. Damn. Yep. Cool. I do this the hard way. I'm not doing it the hard way. I don't have time to sit there and beat my head against the wall. Done. That took way too long. Holy fuck. Still have to work on my accessories too. Alright, see if we can get some good characters from the Brave Battle summons. Probably not, but ooh, nice. Ooh, nice. Nice. Eh. I already got one of you. I don't need more. Okay. Uki. Whoops. Okay, let's unlock these guys. So they're just gonna get put into... where'd he go? Ah. Cool. And then we have Yahabaha. And these are all good for brave battles. I don't know about these characters that we got. I mean, they're good, but they're not that good. Alright. We'll do one more, I guess. Why not? I doubt we'll get anything good, and it's probably going to be a waste, but... see if we can luck in one more. Damn. We got nothing. Getting a whole lot of fucking nothing. At least we got another Wahabaha. I guess that's cool. Okay. It's like, where the hell did he go? Cool. All right. So yeah, 55 6-star characters already. It's kind of crazy, actually. Cool. But all right, guys, that'll be it for me. Remember, drop a comment down below, share your thoughts. I'm always interested to hear what everybody has to say. Just remember to keep it respectful, and we're all good. Next time I do a Bleach Brave Souls episode, it'll be most likely on my mobile. Pretty close to hitting the 500 6-star character milestone. As mentioned previously, I wanted to do a mobile stream and celebrating 500 6-star characters in my arsenal. And I'll probably do the console version on my own time. There'll still be more Bleach, but it's going to be more spaced out here and there. I don't want to make any kind of commitments. I'm actually going to stop making commitments. So whenever I stream, that's going to be whenever I stream. So if you don't want to miss the next stream, a follow goes a long way. Same on YouTube. I was making some YouTube content there. I still have to upload the products. I had finished editing and making them all juicy and whatever, some videos to upload. But now that I got my streaming back up and running, there'll be more content coming out, but I'm not going to be giving any time or dates or when you can expect it, just because stuff does end up happening. Like a couple of days ago, I was supposed to come back with another stream, and that didn't end up happening. And there's been multiple instances where I was like, oh, I'll be right back, or yeah, stay tuned, another episode coming, and next thing you know, it doesn't happen because, you know, I get sick, or I'm called in for work, or somebody doesn't want to show up for their fucking damn job, or my console doesn't want to let me stream for some unknown error. So if you guys don't want to miss the stream and you do want to see more, just hit the follow. You'll be notified. Same with YouTube. The sub goes a long way. A like isn't too hard unless it's beneath you. Then I understand. And don't forget, you feel free to engage with the content, guys. Not just doing this for the good of my health. But I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and or night, wherever you are in the world. Appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out. And for everybody else, hey, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.